my session, How to Drive New Business Through Telesales. It is, as it says, a practical session which hopefully you can take some things away from and put into practice in your own businesses. So my name is Tracy McInnes. I'm CEO of 3 very sales-based businesses. I've been in sales since the dawn of time, hopefully I've got a lot of experience to share with you. So that's me. What I want to know about is you. So can I just ask, who are the business owners here amongst you? Any business owners? Yeah? 2? Only 2? 3? Okay. And marketers? Anyone in marketing? Sales? Okay. And the rest of you are just here for a sit down? Okay. Great. All right. So for the business owners in the room, which obviously there aren't that many, I've been in business since 1989. I started age 10, obviously, I've launched a number of different multi-million pound businesses. So I've had to grow my own businesses from scratch 3 times. I sold out somewhere in the middle. But my Procom connections, I started up again in 2010, having reversed myself out from the company I sold to, and started with 3 people around my dining table in January 2010, and now built that up to a 50-seat call centre in Hertfordshire. My other businesses are Connect TCM, which is a software as a service company for telesales, strangely enough. And Pro Sales Training and Recruitment, which is obviously training and recruitment, but we use our call centre environment to train people up to sell properly and to understand what activity rates are all about. That is me. I totally empathise with the problems and challenges around being a small business, because I've been there and done that. Can I also ask, who's selling to B2B? Anyone selling into B2C? No, good, great, because this isn't really that relevant for that. Okay, so presumably you're here at SME Live because you want to grow your business, and you're here in this session because you want to do the same. So. Anyone amongst you who are members of entrepreneurial groups or mastermind, anything like that? No? Okay, well that's not relevant then. I've been on those things, and basically driving new business, growing your business is about working on your business rather than in your business. Yeah, so most small business owners are control freaks. And they have to learn to let go and have to learn to let other people do some of the work for them. So in order to grow your business, it's quite simple, isn't it? You need more customers. But how many do you need, over what period, and how are you going to get them? So typically, if you're looking to grow your business by 100,000 revenue a year, and your average client spend is 10,000. You only need 10 new customers, so that's less than 1 a month. That's easy, yeah? On the other hand, if you're looking for $1 million at 10,000 average spend, that's 100 customers you need over a period of a year, which is perhaps unrealistic. Unless, of course, you've got a cure for cellulite or men pattern baldness, I think they call it, yeah. So, so it's not personal. I've got cellulite, right? There are many ways, obviously, that you can get these new customers. Unlike in 1989 when I first started, where we didn't have mobile phones, laptops, and in fact the M25 wasn't even joined up all the way around. So the only way of actually selling something was to phone somebody, make an appointment, drive up the motorway at 5:30 in the morning, pitch to them, and put yourself in danger of selling something. But nowadays, obviously, times have changed, and there are many other ways, and you should consider them all. However, I believe, and I would say this, that picking up the telephone is still as relevant today as it was in 1989, I was 10 then, by the way, you still need, in a business-to-business environment, you still need to pick up the phone or have a face-to-face meeting to close a deal, unless you're really lucky and in your businesses, stuff sells itself. Has anyone got a business like that? No? Okay, so I'm obviously going to share with you today how to generate business through telesales rather than any other type of media. Obviously it's all about what I've learned over 30 years of being in business, and not only driving new business in my own companies, but for hundreds of clients over the last 30 years. So we have actually run some 10,000 client campaigns in our Procom's environment. So I'm going to kick off with data. It is my soapbox subject. I've been known to talk for hours on it. You know, people fall asleep during my conversations on data. So I'm going to start off with that because every successful campaign starts and ends with it. If you're going to fail, this is where you will fail. There are other things you can get wrong as well, but this is the main, data is the main reason. So I'm going to talk about all that other stuff as well. So we have loads of data. It's possibly the worst thing that people can say to me, with the exception of, we've run out of wine, Tracy. But they say it repeatedly, and no matter whether they're SMEs, large corporate companies, they say to me, we've got loads of data. It's wrong on so many levels. I mean, you know, GDPR now has kind of come in and you know, put a stop to all this mass marketing, untargeted rubbish that we get in. I mean, I don't know about you, I've got 5,500 unread emails in my own inbox. I mean, even if you want to read stuff, you haven't got the time, right? Can't even clear it down fast enough, can you? Yeah, we've got loads of data. I don't want to hear we've got loads of data. I want to hear we've got the right data. So in Procom Connections, we have, for example, we have found a niche that we're really good in. So SME Live is a typical client of mine. We specialise in events, getting people along to events. We work with 5 out of the top 20 global exhibition organisers, and the rest of them actually in that top 20 are not based in the UK, otherwise we would be working with them. So for every single event at the NEC, at Olympia, at Excel, yeah, we find out who the marketing manager is, when the event is, and we pitch to them. And unsurprisingly, we get a lot of repeat business and business from other exhibition organisers, because we can quote all the top guys and what we do for them and so on and so forth. So if you've got a niche, something that you're really good in, where you've got some really good client testimonials, you know, then that's one way of looking at data. But people also say to me that we can sell to everyone. Yeah, well, I can sell to everyone as a telemarketing business, but you know what, it's scattergun approach, and it's very, very expensive to try and sell to everyone, particularly in a telesales environment. Okay, historically, email marketing, it was cheap, everybody did it, but you know, that's all come to pass now. But so by way of an example of this, I mean, you can call everybody, of course you can, you know, but it'll cost you a fortune, right? So in our call centre, I expect my agents doing lead generation to make at least 100 calls per day, all day, every day. You know, other types of campaign, 200, 300 calls, okay? And typically, you'll get through to 15% of people that you talk to. By the way, I forgot to mention, if you want slides later, yeah, give me your card. We're on stand J20, which is opposite the meeting area over there. I've got business cards. You can find me on LinkedIn. So I'll happily send you these slides. You know, or come and talk to me for free advice. Bring me some coffee. I would say wine, but I'm on Go Sober for October. So anyway, going back to this, 100 calls a day, 15%, 20% of people that you ring, you'll get through to, typically. Sometimes it's less, it depends on how hard your, you know, market sector is. So in my environment, and I stress in my outsource environment, that will take about 3 months of calling to get through to 1,000 bits of data. So you can see why we got loads of data perhaps isn't the right thing to have. Because if the first 500 people you call are not the right people, then you've wasted at least a month and a half worth of telemarketing resource, right? So, however, I mean, I do a lot of work with clients where I place my agents on site with them for training periods and so on. And you know, they come back and go, oh God, those people, they don't make any calls, they're on their phones, they're on the internet, they're doing everything other than making calls, which is, you know, typical of an in-house environment. You know, I don't leave my people on site very long because they'll get into bad habits. I have to bring them back and get them back on the flipping phone. So typically in an in-house environment, if you're lucky if you do half of this activity, yeah, so that will take 6 months therefore to get through to 1,000 prospects. Okay, so I don't know if I've emphasised this enough, but you really need to invest the time deciding who your customer personas are, and those are the guys that you want to be ringing. You know, the lower hanging fruit, not everybody that you could possibly sell to, because that's an expensive waste of time. Now, the reason that we get very high productivity rates, or one of the reasons, I mean, I do whip people into shape a lot, but we have a very structured process, okay? So I don't just give people an Excel spreadsheet and a piece of paper and, you know, away they go. You know, we've got a very structured process with our own technology, which I built over 30 years and we sell into other clients. You know, whatever environment you're in, a structured process is really what you need to have a, you know, real focused, consistent message. Prioritize who you're calling, and why you're calling them. You know, to measure the outcomes of the actual campaigns and also your agent performance, and also to minimise things like administration tasks, because I don't know if any of you ever run. Actually, I'll ask that question. Who already has an internal telesales team? Okay, and who would like one? And who outsources? One, okay. And anyone not done it at all? Any telesales at all? Okay, all right, good. So most of you are looking at you know, internal resource. So I don't know, you know, what kind of a structure and process that you have in place, but you know, there are many CRMs that you can use, Excel spreadsheets, call loggers, and so on and so forth. But you know, they're not necessarily fit for purpose. But you know, at least if you have you know, that structure and process, if you have perhaps a script, you have a prioritised calling list, you know who your market is, and so on, then it will help. But just by way of example, this is Connect TCM. This is what it looks like. This is my baby. I've grown this up over 30 years, and it gets more attention than my own children. So this is the tool that we use. So we've got basically here a dashboard with all the campaigns that we're going to work on, and we've got top 5 overdue callbacks. We've got our KPIs for the agents to see before they make a call. This is my login, by the way, which is why there's loads of overdue callbacks. I don't get time to make my own calls, which actually, do you know what? It's because I'm too busy doing other stuff, which is you know, part of the problem with, you know, you need a consistent approach to making lots and lots of calls. So from here, following on with this structured process, we have a prioritised call list. So the calls are prioritised in different ways. So this callback date up here is what we call an exact callback date. So that differentiates the good callbacks from the he's not in, he's in a meeting, you know, rubbish sort of callbacks that can get in the way. So that's one way of prioritising it. We've also got links into an email marketing tool, built-in email marketing tool. So clicks and opens will then get prioritised and come to the top for calling. And we also integrate with tools like Marketo and other campaign automation tools. So if people get a good lead score, it can be fed in and come to the top of the calling list. And there are many other things on here that, you know, I won't bore you with, but we have contact, we can drill into contact notes. We've got our KPIs here. We can use the filter button to you know, look for specific data sets or countries or you know, any other kind of priority data that we want to filter for, which will override the natural prioritization. Now, why this is important is you'll know if you run internal telesales teams that they'll find any reason to not make the next call, right? Yes? Yeah, okay. You know, what I've always tried to do is to, you know, provide the structure and remove all the excuses for not making the next call. One of those excuses is admin, but another is, is actually finding who to call next. I want to stroll through, I want to see who I'm going to call next. I need to go and make a cup of tea, I need to go on the internet, I need to do this, that, and the other. But anyway, so here we're just like, this is the next one to call, click on it, dial it, it opens up a client questionnaire, campaign questionnaire should I say, and this then takes us through a structured process. So this is effectively your script, but it's also mirroring your business process. So every time I click on an answer here, that's building reporting information in the back end for me to understand how many calls I've made, how many decision makers I've spoken to, and out of those decision makers I've spoken to, how many people have I converted to a lead, an appointment, an event registration, a piece of data cleaned, etc., etc. So question 1, for example, is your gatekeeper intro. Bloody gatekeepers. So lots of different things can happen here. I find that the company's closed down, the telephone number is wrong, whatever, and I'm not going to go past go. So, that we finish the campaign questionnaire there, and that comes off our live calling list. Or we put through to decision maker, so that's then going to record, a decision maker contact, as part of that call. And then we go through to the decision maker pitch. We also automate things like sending out email fulfillment, sales leads, appointments, customer service escalations, whatever you like, just by clicking on this button, not going into Outlook, getting distracted by the football scores or whatever men get distracted by, or women, I don't know, actually women don't get distracted, do they? So if I click on send info and left voicemail after 6 call attempts, that will trigger my email to go straight out to the customer. I can top and tail it, but I'm staying within my technology there. I'm not going out and getting distracted. Distracted is a big problem. So that's our structured process, and obviously there's a lot more to it than that. I've built this over 30 years and 10,000 client campaigns, so it does a lot. Looks really simple, but that's because it's been written and simplified over the years. But I'm over there on J20 if you want to know any more about it. This is one of the reports that we produce, and one of the things that I need to emphasise is activity rates are really important. You can have the best salesperson in the world, but if they don't make enough calls, they don't get through to enough people, then they're no use really at all. But and with decision maker contact rates at 15 to 20% of the people that you call, if you make 100 calls, you're going to get through to 15 people. If you make 50 calls a day, you're going to get through to 7.5. If you only make 20 calls a day, you're going to get through to 2, 3, 4, decision makers. And if your data is rubbish, they're not even going to be the right decision makers. So that's not going to work either, is it? So here you can see this is a report for SME Live registration. So did anybody get a call to register for this event? No? Oh, well, if you had done, that would have been us. But what this tells us is how many hours an agent has been in a campaign, how many target outcomes they've achieved, the outcome per hour, the percentage of the target, number of calls they've made, the number of decision makers, the decision maker contact rate, and the conversion rate once they get through. And those KPIs are something that we use consistently across all types of campaign. Many people track the number of calls that agents make, but this decision maker contact thing is very, very important and not always recorded. Standard CRMs won't record that, standard call loggers won't record that. The only reason that we have that kind of information is because of the questionnaire, the question and answer process. So anyway, whatever you're using, activity rates are key. If you're trying to, often people will use somebody to do telesales that is related, or they're doing another job, and they might make 10, 20 calls a day, every other day. It's not consistent. It's not going to drive new business very effective for you. You need to make the calls. And in a fit-for-purpose environment now, it's not always easy, unless you've got a reasonably sized team in-house, it's not always easy to find that fit-for-purpose environment. So in my environment, they have a break at 11, 10 minutes, they have a break at 3, 10 minutes, they have half an hour lunch, they can have an hour, it's their choice. They're not allowed mobile phones. They're not allowed to be on the internet. They make calls. That's what they're there for. They have their heads down. They make calls, without distraction. And in fact, in our call centre, being on your mobile phone is actually a disciplinary offence. Now that's obviously in an in-house environment a lot trickier to execute. But if you can remove distractions, if you can take away the need to drag them off, to do other tasks, or be sitting amongst their best friend in marketing, whatever, and just focus on calls, then you will get better productivity. Or outsource. If you can't do that, perhaps to outsource. KPIs. So I don't know again how many of you are working to regular KPIs, but if you've not done this before, then you need to have KPI set. So in this example, I've got my target for the month of 39,000 in terms of revenue, but how am I going to get there? Okay, so I'm working backwards from knowing what my monthly revenue is to what I've got to deliver in terms of activity rate. So this is one agent in my environment making 500 calls a week, and getting through to 15, that's the minimum I expect. With a 15% contact rate would be 75 people spoken to, pitched to, and then from that I'm expecting a 10% conversion to appointment. If you're making appointments, maybe not, maybe you're selling directly over the phone. And from that, our process is we'd expect to write a proposal for at least 50%. I mean, if I'm sitting in front of somebody, it'd be 100%. But and then from there, my average deal value may be £5,200. That's probably not far off. And then I would then expect to convert 50% of those proposals that I've written. Again, I might convert higher, than some of my salespeople, but this is an average. So month one, 2,000 calls, 300 contacts, 30 appointments, 15 proposals, 78 grand worth of proposals, £39,000 worth of revenue. Oh, it's easy, isn't it? Okay, so I only have 30 minutes to share with you 30 years of experience, so apologies if I'm rushing through it, but you're welcome to come and pick my brains later. So good salespeople are very hard to find. Who would agree with that? Yeah, and sometimes a pain in the arse. Sorry for the salespeople in the room, but over the years, it's getting harder and harder actually, to find good salespeople that aren't, very expensive or prima donnas or whatever. But my experience has been it's been better to grow them than necessarily take on good experienced people. So develop people with the potential. They might not have even sales experience, but if they've got the potential, they've got the drive, they've got the right attitude, then it's worth investing in them, right? And a CV is a terrible way to judge, a good salesperson. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good salesperson because I am one. I've been one for 30 years. And they're great at selling themselves at interview. They're not always great at delivering, and particularly, this whole activity disconnect. They're really great salesperson, but are they going to pick up the phone? Are they going to make those meetings? Are they going to do the activity? Can they sell? Can they close? Will they do the right level of activity? In terms of training, I'm a great believer in one-to-one. So we do a lot of listening back to our telesales agents and with them. So sit them in a room, sit them with their peers and make them listen back to their calls. Sometimes it is cringy, but And then give them specific support, practical support around those calls. There are some great tools out there as well. I mean, we use a thing called Silent Edge, which is like a scorecard of consistent measures. So it's a very fair way of looking at all of your salespeople and how they're performing and where their strengths and weaknesses are. But as I say, there's no substitute in my view to sitting down and listening or attending meetings with them and giving them that one-to-one. And if they're really good, they're worth that effort up front rather than just saying, like, off you go sell some stuff. And we also, from an outsource telesales point of view, we place a lot of our people on client site for training. Rather than just like, here's a 2-hour briefing, off you go, sell me some stuff. Would you do that for an in-house agent? Would you give them 2 hours of training and then let them get on with selling stuff for you? No. Why would you do that if you're employing an outsource agency? So I parachute people in with using our technology because it's web-based. We can still monitor them, still have the process, the structure, etc., etc. And then when they're trained and they're ready and they know the proposition, we'll bring them back into our environment, get them making more calls, of course, because they got lazy in the client site, and away we go. So our training and recruitment business is all about actually putting people on the phones in a call centre environment to get them used to making 100 calls per day, because that's really difficult, particularly in an in-house environment when there's all those other distractions if you start them off with that mindset, the only way I'm going to get good stuff is by making over 100 calls a day, then hopefully that sticks. Realistic expectations. Oh, if I could count the times that clients have had some unrealistic expectations out of telesales, I wouldn't be here, I'd be in the Caribbean somewhere. From a cold database, and I emphasise cold databases, which is what we normally see in the telesales environment, the cold stuff, because the internal teams have got all the good stuff, or it's been expended. So from a cold start, your expectations need to be reasonable, i.e. measure it against what your usual sales lead to conversion time is from a cold start. Not your experienced salespeople that have got loads of existing contacts and people who know the brand, etc., etc. You need to measure it based on cold data, if that's what your telesales team is calling. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed because you may not get sales in your first week. Very unusual. Depends what you're selling. Even your first month, maybe even 3 months. If your general sales cycle is 6 months, it's still going to take 6 months. What we can do by doing high volumes of telesales calls is perhaps get more people in the pipeline, maybe escalate that a bit. But as small businesses, it's very, very difficult to make any investment into sales or marketing activity, no matter what you're doing, whether you're creating a website, Google AdWords, writing content, attending exhibitions. You have to make a reasonable investment. For some reason, people expect telemarketing to pay off in 2 weeks, and it doesn't. If people come to me, and say, "Can we just give this a little go? A couple of hours a week for a couple of weeks?" And I go, "You've got the wrong person. Go and find somebody, some housewife working at home or something that will do that for you, because that's not going to work. I'm going to get blood on my hands if I do that." So any form of new business generation takes time. It's the hardest bloody thing to do. But if you do it well, if your data is good, if your activity rates are good, if your sales resource is good, if you've given the right support and training, it will pay off. But there'll be some squeaky bum moments along the way, because you might get to 3 months and you think, I haven't got return on this investment yet. Do I keep spending, or do I give up now and stop? If you've got all the right infrastructure in place, you've got all the right tools to be monitoring what you're doing, then you'll know whether it's going to work or not. You'll know if you've got good pipeline, and you'll know if it's going to take just that little bit longer, versus there's nothing building in this pipeline. This is not going to work. I need to pull out my money. So do it well, and it will pay off. I think there's only been one situation where I've actually said to the client, you know what, I'm going to stop this because it's not going to work. And we were calling into Boston, into pharmaceutical companies, and none of those buggers answer the phone. They just don't answer the phone. So it was never going to work. But most campaigns that I've run over 30 years, 10,000 client campaigns, done well, it will work. Where it fails usually is data. Did I say that earlier? I might have said that earlier. Oh God, I have to mention this for you. Just because there are a lot of misconceptions over GDPR. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a salesperson. So this is from the perspective of me having direct marketing expertise and having had to look at this over the last 2 years to make sure my business wasn't going to go tits up, excuse my French. In terms of what you need to know, the basics of what you need to know with regard to telephoning and email marketing, you can call any business, which is a corporate entity, that has not already opted out to phone calls from you, or they're not on the corporate telephone preference service list. You can call any individual in the same vein that's not opted out to calls from you and is not on TPS, I should say TPS, not CTPS. And you can email any business, either a limited company or equivalent, that has not opted out receiving emails where you have a legitimate interest to contact them. Right? I'm not going to go into legitimate interest with you, but that's the processing basis upon which you can contact them. However, and this is where most people will get stuck, or could get caught out, you cannot email individuals, which includes partnerships and sole traders, without their consent. And most people don't know, when looking at their data, whether people are sole traders or partnerships or limited companies, because they haven't got that information in their data. You need to really build that information in your data. I doubt very much whether the ICO is going to come looking for you, but as far as compliance is concerned, that's the thing that might scupper you if you email partnerships or sole traders without their consent. But phone all you like, as long as you're screening against TPS and your opt-outs. Any questions? Scripts.
When you pick up a phone and actually make a call, you have no idea who's on the other side of the phone. It could be the owner, it could be the reception, it could be a manager. First of all, how do you figure that out while you only have 20 seconds before they shut the phone down on you, so that you say the right word so the call can at least last a couple of minutes?
All right, well, first of all, your data should be populated with the, business decision maker. You shouldn't be just calling businesses without knowing who it is you're trying to target. Yeah, so you ask for that person. If they're not there, you determine who it is you are speaking to, because it might be the owner's wife or a PA that can actually help you out. So never assume that that's a gatekeeper who's going to block you. You get them on side. You tell them why you're ringing. Why you want to speak to that person. Why it's of value to them. And again, if your data is relevant, you won't get blocked as much as if it's not. If the person knows that person, for example, has been looking for telemarketing services in the last couple of weeks, and you know that for some reason because you've already researched that data, then you're much more likely to get through. You get blocked mostly because your call is not relevant to the person that you're trying to call, and that comes back down to matching the data, with your offering. Your question at the back. Sorry, I can't hear you.
If I'm thinking of emailing a number of medical surgeries, one thing I'm worried about is, even though I'm offering a local doctor service, is some people perceiving it as spam. Now, what I've been told by another doctor is, if you get free complaints, then the NHS they block your email or essentially, is that right?
I don't know with regard to the NHS specifically, but I mean, as far as email marketing is concerned, people have spam filters, corporate, level spam filters and their own rules. So I mean, I'm more an expert at telemarketing rather than sales.
Okay.
I mean, I'm expert at sales, not email marketing. Right, and do I need to wrap up? All right, can I take a last question? Any last questions? No? All right, well, that's good. Well, if you want to leave me your business card, or you want to come over to the stand for any, further advice, or you want to take my business, I've got some business cards up here, then please do so, and I can send you the copies of the slides or whatever. Thank you very much for your time.